Hello there and welcome to The Pulse. We are coming to you live from our studios here in Accra. Don't forget that we are on your digital terrestrial TV because we are free to air. This afternoon, you can catch us live on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. This is JoyNews, independent, fearless and credible. Coming up this afternoon on The Pulse, a UK-based economic intelligence unit is predicting victory for the National Democratic Congress in the 2024 elections. We'll unpack the reports which blames widespread corruption and the slow pace of infrastructural development under the NPP administration as the impediment to the party's dream of breaking the eight. We'll bring you updates on that shortly. Also, Russian government dismisses claims its invasion of Ukraine is to blame for the current hikes in food prices. We'll bring you a statement that's released by the Russian embassy shortly. So we're asking
in February, we had a conflict between Russia and Ukraine, which started in February, at the same time that we've started seeing this significant depreciation.
Stay with us as we explore more, because we're asking that question: what does this mean for government's justification for the state of the economy? We'll find out shortly here on The Pulse. And the National Disaster Management Organization is racing against time to move residents in Keta and its surrounding communities to safer grounds 5 hours to what the Ghana Meteo Agency predicts would be high tides with devastating impacts on the area. Stay with us. My name is Sogah. The Pulse, as always, is brought to you by Global Communities Dignilu, affordable, safe sanitation. This afternoon, we are also streaming live on YouTube, and all of our social media handles is at JoyNews on TV. Feel free to tweet at us with the hashtag The Pulse. My personal handle is at Sogah. Thanks for choosing us. Please stay. Well, so this afternoon, this is a story that we're paying attention to here on The Pulse. The Economic Intelligence Unit, EIU, is predicting electoral victory for the main opposition National Democratic Congress in the next general elections. After 2 terms of the New Patriotic Party administration, EIU says it expects the NDC to gain a small majority in Parliament in the 2024 elections. These findings are actually contained in the 5-year political and economic outlook compiled by the International Research Agency. You have excerpts on your screens now indicating details of why EIU believes that the NDC has the lead in the next elections. And excerpts reads that the next parliamentary and presidential elections are due in 2024 under constitutionally mandated term limits. The incumbent president, Mr. Akufo-Addo, cannot run for a 3rd term. Now, the former president, John Dramani Mahama, is reportedly considering running again, but we expect the opposition National Democratic Congress to try to revitalize its prospects with a fresh candidate. There's more for you in this report. Our baseline forecast, as the EIU is indicating, is that ongoing public dissatisfaction with a slow pace of improvement in governance, such as infrastructural development, job creation, and easing of corruption, will trigger anti-incumbency factors and push the electorate to seek for a change. The NDC, therefore, stands a reasonable chance of winning the 2024 elections. And here is more for you, excerpts of the EIU report on Ghana's political outlook, indicating that the ruling party, the New Patriotic Party, will seek to, first of all, limit the fallout of the coronavirus pandemic. Dissatisfaction over high unemployment and also perceived corruption will spare sporadic unrest, but political stability will prevail on the whole. EIU expects Ghana's underlying political stability to endure over the forecast period, despite a highly acrimonious party political landscape. So those are excerpts of the statement we're getting through from this latest EIU report. So what does the New Patriotic Party make of the findings, particularly when it says it wants to break the 8? Joining me now is Director of Elections and Research for the New Patriotic Party, Evan Sinemako. Thank you so much for your time, sir. So here we are. The verdict for SAM is out. This is the same organization that predicted your victory back in 2020. Now they say it's a bad time for the NPP. What's your take on that?
Well, thank you for having me. And I will start by saying that there is a report by the EIU, and I think it's not right for you to say that it is only the report of the EIU that got the New Patriotic Party elected in 2016 and 2020. The New Patriotic Party has received the report. It's not the final decision of the good people of Ghana. For me, it serves as an advice. As we speak today, it's 19th April 2022. Ghanaians will go to the polls in December 7, 2024. There's a long way to go. And I will not run away from the fact that there are some challenges in Ghana. And times have never been the same. The whole world, just as was coming from the COVID-19 pandemic, is also experiencing the fallout of the Russia and Ukraine war. And I'll be surprised if discerning and reasonable people will not be looking at these challenges and think that what Ghana is going through is mainly the making of the New Patriotic Party. For us, I can assure you, we've always said the battle is the Lord's. And no, when we go into the elections in 2024, a huge majority of the Ghanaian population will be going to that polls, and they will decide the way forward for the good people of Ghana. And I can assure you that definitely the people of Ghana will vote for the New Patriotic Party once again.
But if that's your verdict, there are many who are looking at the reasons for which the EIU is predicting a victory for the NDC. They claim that the social pact that you have with the political party, and you have that on your screens now, indicating that there are concerns about how you're not able to address issues pertaining unemployment and also the economy. It's a social pact that you have with Ghanaians. So regardless of the external factors, I guess that the point is you've not delivered, isn't it?
Well, I would disagree with you, but issues of employment is an ongoing thing. It's an unending activity that every government will be confronted with. Because year in, year out, we turn in our junior brothers and sisters from school, and they definitely need to be provided with employment. The New Patriotic Party believes in the private sector as the engine of growth. We are aware of what the government has been financing and assisting the public to go into the private sector arrangement where other bodies will also engage. So issues of employment has always been key. It was a key demand of the good people of Ghana in 2016. It was in 2020, and I know it's not going to run away in 2024. Definitely, it's a huge demand of the good people of Ghana. The youth need to be given employment. So yes, I can appreciate the issue of corruption. It has always been on the ticket, but I can assure you that the New Patriotic Party government has done enough to ensure that this whole issue of perception, whether rare or not, is addressed with. Unless you are telling me today that you have evidence of corruption or act of corruption that has not been pursued by the government.
But Evans, if you make that point, some would say the verdict is out there already. In fact, the Transparency International report puts you at a stagnated point. You've not made progress in dealing with the issue of corruption. This is the president that told us that he was in to fight corruption.
Ensure that we need the issue of corruption in the back.
But the figures indicate that you've stagnated if it comes to corruption. You agree, Evans? If you can hear me.
I'm saying that
so what I was trying to say, Evans, and if you can hear me, I was taking your thoughts on.
But I'm saying that as a government, issue of corruption is being addressed.
We're having yes, we're having challenges re-establishing the line with Evans Demaku, but there's a need for us to reassess the claims that he's making and also look at the concerns of the NPP on this. But if you're joining us now, just gone by were excerpts of the EIU report, Political Outlook, predicting a victory for the National Democratic Congress. The NPP disagrees with some of the findings in there. Let's see if Evans Demaku is joining us back at the moment. Evans, if you can hear me, you were making a point about how your party is making some significant strides in the fight against corruption. But that's against, for instance, the verdict of the Transparency International and some other ratings agencies that are proving otherwise. You've stagnated when it comes to the figures.
Well, your line is being corrupted.
Right.
But I'll do my best to respond. What I'm saying is that issue of corruption as a country is something that we all have to come on board to address. So it has to be backed by evidence. It cannot just be word of mouth. You just pronounce it and run away with. You have to support it. And I remember before Mr. Domino left the Auditor General, if Transparency International is raising concern, there has to be specific. We cannot just raise the perception and run away with. And I'm saying that as a government, as a party, we will do everything in our power to support the government to ensure that issues of corruption are addressed. And so today, if Dr. Opuni is in court and you are telling me the New Patriotic Party government is not pursuing an action to address corruption in Ghana, then I'm surprised. And so, yes, it has come up in the EIU report. The government has taken it, the party has taken it. We will take steps, and whatever has to be done, I think that it is for all of us as Ghanaians to ensure that we address it. There's nowhere in the world that issues of corruption are not mentioned, but it's performed, it's done by human beings. But we should make it very unfavorable for people to pursue it. And I think that as a government, all that has to be done are being put in place.
Now, Evans, very recently we had the president say at your party headquarters that whoever will emerge as the leader of the New Patriotic Party will win the 2024 election. What does this make of that vision, given the fact that there's a new report out there proving scientifically otherwise?
Well, I don't think the report of EIU is sacrosanct. I'm saying that it's a research report that has come out, and when research of such nature are published, what we do as a party is to assess it, and so we do what has to be done. And before the EIU came up, the New Patriotic Party has been working. We've been doing our internal elections. Aside that, the other important thing the party is undertaking. And so if it comes up that, yes, Mr. President mentioned that he is looking at and into the future where he will hand over to the next New Patriotic Party presidential candidate as the next president, it's a strong message to the party rank and file, and we work towards it. The other side have never accepted any report of the EIU. And if you check your history, you've always said that, yes, some researchers may come, you will not be swollen-headed, you will not be taken aback, you remain focused and support the government, you urge people in government to work towards the objective of ensuring that Ghana is brought to the level where challenges are reduced. And so that is what we've been doing, that's what we continue to do. So, yes, the president has assured the party that he is looking at handing over to the next New Party president, to assure you.
So what you're saying
that the people of Ghana.
So what you're saying is that what you're saying is that you believe in the president's vision, and that will become a reality in the 2024 elections.
Definitely.
But the question is that backed by data? In fact, you are the director of elections for the New Patriotic Party. Are the claims you're making now backed by data? What data does the NPP have to suggest that you've delivered based on the promises you made to the people of Ghana, and that you are certain that in 2024 Ghanaians will renew your mandate, regardless of the candidate you would field in for the presidential elections? Yes, well, it appears that we've lost Evans. Nimako there. We'll try and raise him later on, and he'll provide us with some perspectives and more insight into what it is that the NPP has in terms of their research figures. But let me just bring you back. Reason why we're having this conversation is on the ERU report, and you have excerpts of that on your screens once more, indicating the decision. And the projection we're getting through from ERU, indicating that the next parliamentary and presidential elections are due in 2024, and that under the constitutionally mandated term limits, the president, which is President Akufo-Addo, cannot run for a third term. That we know for a fact. The former president, John Mahama, is actually reported to be considering running again, but the EIU is expecting that the opposition National Democratic Congress will try to revitalize its prospects with a fresh candidate. So that's the projection, and that's why there are different legs to this conversation. Let's have that now. In fact, there are calls within the National Democratic Congress at this moment calling for a renewed leadership, and not necessarily on the need for the party to go once more with its former or previous presidential candidate, John Dramani Mahama. So is the time now to have a new leadership for the NDC? Joining me this time round in studio is one man who once declared that he was going to run for the presidential slot of the National Democratic Congress. He's a lawyer by profession. Ellie Clement is joining us now. Welcome to the studio, sir.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.
Yeah.
I recall in 2018 or 2019, you issued a statement telling the people of Ghana that at the right time, you would lead the NDC at God's chosen time. I recall those were excerpts of the statement that you indicated.
Yes.
And many are asking the question, now that the EIU report is out and the projection is that try and find a new leadership for the NDC.
Yes.
Is this the time for you? Is this a time for a new leadership to emerge in the NDC? And if that has to happen, would it have to be Ellie Clement?
Well, thank you for having me. Right. And I would say that on a personal level, that decision has not been reached yet. And generally, as to whether the NDC needs a fresh candidate or not, it's also a matter that has to be dealt with by the rank and file. The delegates of the party will have to decide. But definitely, it's yet another time for that process to begin, for the democratic processes to be put in place, for everybody to show what they
can offer the NDC. We'll talk about the reorganization process of the National Democratic Congress soon, but Council, just hold on for me briefly. I understand that Evans Nimako is back this time around on the telephone lines. So Evans, you're making the point about your research and what it is that the NPP has. What data do you have backing your claims that whoever would emerge to lead the NPP will win the 2024 elections? Hello, Evans?
Yes.
Yes, I was asking about the data. What data do you have supporting the claims that you're making?
Oh, well, thank you very much. Sorry, I lost you. That some people are trying to corrupt the line or whatever. But what I'm saying is that it is not for me at this stage to lay our arsenal on how we're winning the 2024 election on the table now. When we get to that bridge, we'll cross. But what is for me insightful is that the report, even though says that the NDC could win if they change Mr. Mahama, it's not conclusive. They didn't tell us whether it will be Harry Yusu and Esidu Keteseke, or it will be Kwabena Dofo, or it will be Kwejubun.
But the word in the report says revitalize. It did not say that if John Mahama is not on that ticket or is on the ticket, the NDC will not win the elections. That's not what's within the report.
That's what I'm saying, that as we speak, today is 19th April, okay? And we are voting in December 7, 2024. It's a long way to go. And I also not run away from the fact that there are some complaints by some Ghanaians, because it's not been easy anywhere. And it is a world all over phenomenon. And I'm saying that as a government and as a party, we keep on working to ensure that we are able to overcome the challenge. Except the doomsayers who do not wish Ghana well. If not, the government is making strides to ensure that we overcome this challenge. If we cast our minds back just about a month or so ago, we saw how prices of fuel were going up, same as the dollar rate. But as we speak, I think you can attest to the fact that it's been stabilized a bit. And so the government must keep on working to alleviate the challenges the good people of Ghana are going through. Mind you, we are not having what we used to have some time ago as in power crisis. I hope you can attest to that. Our junior brothers and sisters who are the senior high school are still going to school. Definitely our teachers are being paid. All bills are being paid by government. That's the responsibility of government. So irrespective of the challenges, the difficulties, those things must be done. And the government is religiously getting that done. I'm not saying that we should be applauding.
Right.
I'm saying that we should be able to work hand in hand so we come out of this quagmire.
Okay, so you feel that there's a bigger challenge beyond the factors that are induced locally. But as we wrap up on this conversation, what's your take on this? Some experts feel that you overpromised in the 2020 election and also the 2016 election, the reason for which Ghanaians are getting dissatisfied with the NPP. Would you agree with that?
Well, I think that around 2016, 2020, the circumstances call for the government to run with that level of speed, which is still pursuing. And so, if you want to look at the issues and you run away from the fact that the external factors do influence how our domestic arrangements are run, then you will not be objective. Then you will not be realistic. In this globalized world, whatever happens to one nation or the other in other parts of the world will have ripple effect. And so, yes, the government has put in place mechanisms to ensure that we run at that pace. And that was exactly what was happening to us until we were hit with COVID. And you're telling me that it did not affect our economy? And you are telling me that what is happening between Russia and Ukraine is not affecting economies of the world? Then I'm surprised. So I'm saying that, yes, I'm not saying that there are no challenges. There are. That is why day in, day out, the government has been on its feet to ensure that as good people of Ghana, we are able to get the best under the circumstances. So the government will continue to work. The EIU report did not give the NDC clean slate. It gave them a certain condition. I'm saying that even that, when you've undertaken a research and you've used a sample size, it could make a story. But the bigger sample size will be the masses who will decide come December 7, 2024. And I can assure you, the good people of Ghana will give the mandate once again to the new patriotic party.
All right then. We'll see about that. Evans Nimako is Director of Elections for the New Patriotic Party. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Ellie is also in studio with us. So you've heard Evans Nimako on that. He says that, well, it's not a straight deal for the NDC. This is the time for you to also work on the conditions that has been stated in the report. And you are saying all of this borders on the leadership of the NDC. Why?
Well, I don't recall saying that it borders on the leadership.
But the executives, the national executives must
yes, but you know,
some actions.
There is always work to do in every election cycle. You know, so what I expect, you know, objectively, is for everybody, you know, in charge who has been given some responsibility to bring the party back to power to be at their best. You know, there is no room for complacency anymore, and the expectations of the rank and file are very high.
Right.
So I would not say anything is a foregone conclusion. I expect hard work, I expect dedication and commitment from everybody.
What do you see to be the chances of John Mahama if he's given you the opportunity to run in the 2024 elections? The report is saying you need to revitalize your position, and that's what the EIU is saying. It appears that Ghanaians are getting used to this phase, and there may be a need for a new leadership to emerge.
The EIU report says they expect the NDC to put measures in place, to get a fresh candidate so that they can revitalize the base and all that. But I think that if you test the pulse of the party, there is the overwhelming consensus that we should maintain the current flag bearer that we have. Of course, people have also...
And this is a general consensus within the National Democratic Congress, the rank and file. It's a sense that you get from across.
That's the sense, but there is no scientific, or should I say, research to back that yet. And one thing I also want to address is the fact that people say that this is not a time for a fresh candidate. Bill Clinton was a fresh candidate. George Bush himself was a fresh candidate. Obama was a fresh candidate. So if you keep on saying that a fresh candidate cannot take us to the promised land, then that is a false start. But that is not to say that somebody who we have tried before and has taken us to battle and won us the battle before should also not have the chance to prove that he can do better or solve whatever problems the Ghanaians.
So if I get the point you're making, you're saying that, well, John Mahama is a good candidate. He could take us there, but we equally stand a better chance if we go with a fresh candidate as the national.
Everybody has a chance, So,
but it's not as simple as that. It's a matter of having the connection and the following in the NDC now.
Very true.
I guess the main man for you now is JM, but you are saying you have a better chance if you bring a new candidate.
No, until you win.
Right.
So the question is, who is able to win? The internal, what should I say? Elections,
right.
Yes. So you can point out all the wrongs, you can point out all the things that needs to be done, but putting moral issues and issues of effort and everything aside, do you have the ability to take power? That is it.
You feel that's where the shortfall of the former president is? He's not able to win the election?
That's not the person I'm even talking about. I'm talking about, amongst
yeah, but you know that
the internal
I perfectly agree. Yeah, I perfectly
the internal suitors.
Yeah, right.
Those who want to come up like me and the others. Now, when you test the pulse of the NDC,
right,
is it possible for us to take
power? That's the bigger question out there. So, and you're telling us that if you look at the NDC now, the general sense you get is that there's a lot of people out there rooting for the former president to go again and to run for the NDC, but it's a question of who wins power for the NDC. That's the point you're making. And I'm asking that going into the 2024 elections, do you see John Mahama making it if he emerges as the winner of the internal primaries?
Well, there's the possibility because we improved on the results that we had in 2016. And we look at the numbers in Parliament now, it attests to the work that the whole party did. So if we are able to rally behind whoever comes, I think we will win.
So your concern is about whoever comes, and that's the operative word you're using. It appears that you're of the opinion and persuasion that, for instance, let's put lawyer Ellie Clement in that position right now. The NDC still holds a chance of winning the 2024 elections.
Oh, yes.
Is it the case with you particularly? What would you bring on board if the NDC, for instance, gives you the chance to run?
Well, we all have our own qualities.
Right.
And
how different will you be, for instance, from John Mahama, who we know has been a former president? How different? What would you be bringing on the table generally?
I don't want to get into that because I've not made that decision yet. Yeah, exactly.
You're still running away from
no, I'm not running.
You may run anyway. Because
I've not made that decision yet.
Anyway.
And you also recall that when I did run, I finally issued a statement supporting
John Mahama.
John Mahama,
Right.
and I want to stick to that for now, unless and until I change my mind. So I don't want to be drawn into an argument of whether I am better than him or somebody is better than him. You know, definitely, no matter the head start he may have,
Right.
because he tasted power before, the democratic process is still going to go on, and people are going to put forward what they can do. And if at the end of the day there is an upset, there is an upset. But I don't want us to discount the fact that people should also come on board and share their ideas.
Right.
At the end of the day, we can put together whatever comes and give it to whoever emerges, so that we can all
I'm
come.
glad that you're saying it's about sharing ideas. For instance, we've seen a name out there already. Former Finance Minister Dr. Kwabena Dufo is already out there.
Yeah.
He's supporting the political party. He believes that there's a need for a new leadership, and not just in the NDC, but also across the country. For instance, if you have Dr. Dufo and you have John Dramani Mahama, who would you go for?
I wouldn't make any choice as to who I should go for at this moment, because I mean, Dr. Dufo himself has not said that he is going to run. All that he is doing, according to him, is to help in the rebuilding of the party. So I think it's an effort that we all should get involved in. President Mahama is also doing his bit, and we are all involved, and therefore, at the end of the day, when people are ready and they want to stick their neck out and say that this is what they want to do, we will see.
You don't feel he stands a good chance? If
It's not the time to make that judgment. I don't want to make that judgment.
Are you not
because
being-
the person we are
I
talking
mean,
about himself.
We're not being evasive on the subject matter, particularly when we know that he started a project that would affect, for instance, 275 constituencies of the National
No,
Democratic
it's
Congress.
good. It's good. It's laudable.
The Ahunto project, I'm sure you've heard that.
Yes,
for
but
instance.
if that is what he's doing and that will win him the power, I cannot step in and say that he shouldn't be declared the winner. You understand? It's something he's doing, and until he says that he's going to run, I don't think I should get ahead of him, because he hasn't briefed me on his strategy and whatever he's doing. So I think we should all keep an open mind and see what happens.
What do you feel is the problem of the NDC now? And what immediate problems do you need to check within the party if indeed you're to win the 2024 election?
I think leadership has to reconcile, the strategy they have with the expectations of the rank and file. For now, I believe that the rank and file expect that we should be stronger in parliament, and we should be stronger in opposition. Give the government a bit of a tough time, but we are not seeing that. And I am actually somebody who thinks that we should be stronger in opposition, so that we can show that when we come to power, all the wrongs that we are complaining about, we are able to solve them.
Your leadership in parliament is not doing a good job, you feel so?
Well, I'm not in parliament, and they do what they are doing. They may say they are doing their best, but we can only judge them based on the results. And
For you don't see the results, really?
I don't see it. I don't see it.
That's basically questioning, for instance, the leadership of Haruna Idrisu and those who are in parliament. That has come up before. I'm sure that you've heard of the internal wrangling between your communications officer when some bills were being considered, and how he feels that the leadership in parliament is not complementing the works of the main leadership of the party itself. How do you fix that problem, and what's the way out of that?
So you can see
situation?
that I'm not alone in that line of thinking. If the communication officer, who is supposed to be closer to the members of parliament than I am, is also making such statement, even though it was a bit of an outburst.
Right.
You could see that there are concerns, and these concerns should not lead to petty quarrels. It should rather lead to consensus building amongst ourselves. We should discuss more the issues and approach matters, a bit more technically. Yeah.
On which national issue did the leadership of the minority in parliament fail to meet your expectations, really?
Oh, I mean, for example, if you talk about the numbers that we have, I expected more horse trading, and the appointments that were made, the MPP did not have to give anything.
Right.
We didn't take anything from them. We just approved. And the budget also, you know,
Right.
the e-levy, well, we opposed, you know, but much of it started, you know, from the activists on social media. And I feel that if the parliamentarians eventually got into the mood, it was because of the pulse of the rank and file, you know, and we are talking about leadership. So they should be ahead of the rank and file.
Right. So it wasn't forceful. What were you expecting the opposition to be to the subject, for instance, of the e-levy?
No, we rejected it. We advocated for its rejection because we felt that the government had so much,
Yeah,
you know,
and all that has been laid out. But you're saying you don't like the strategy of the minority, the way they've gone in terms of their opposition towards the e-levy. That's what you're saying. But I'm asking what was wrong with the opposition. Some say they staged the walkout, and then now they are in court. Is it for you? Is it a feasible approach?
The walkouts shouldn't have happened. I believe that they should have stayed, and if they lost the vote, the Ghanaians will know that, well, they did their best, they were sincere, and they lost the vote. But to walk out meant that we left I would say the midfield for the government side to do whatever they want. So the
change
walkout
in leadership will help address the problems that you're seeing with the leadership of the minority in parliament.
It's about results, and if the people we have there will not get the results, why not?
Let's talk about the chances of the case that is in the courts right now about the e-levy. There's a case being made, for instance, being spearheaded by the Honorable Mahama Yariga and others, asking the Supreme Court, first of all, to grant the stay of execution. And then we also know that there is a concern about the e-levy itself. So hold on with the rollout of the implementation of the e-levy. And then there's the substantive case about the decision that was taken on the floor of Parliament. You are a lawyer yourself, assessing the case that your members of Parliament are making. Do you see some success at the end of the day?
Well, it's basically about, when you look at the rates, the claim is basically about the lack of quorum, you know, and I don't see any prospects in that case, except that I don't want to discuss into detail the legalities of the case and all, because it's sub judice, you know, so I might find myself, you know, being in contempt of court and all that. But the horse has already left the stables, and
it's a done deal
now. Yes, right.
You've lost it.
I don't. Yeah, you know, you see, that case, for example, is to keep up the hope and to let the rank and file know that we are doing something to still oppose. But that fight is over. That fight against the e-levy is over, unless when we come back to power, we reassess the tax measure and do something about it. But for now, to say that we will adopt litigation to unwind what has been done is a tall order.
So let's talk about, as we wrap up this conversation, about your reorganization. You say that the grassroots they're not too happy about what's happening at the national front. Yes. For you, critically, just lay it out for us, what does the NDC need to consider at this point to check itself and to ready itself for the 2024 elections, as we wrap up on this conversation?
We need to be more combative. Yes, I remember when the current Speaker of Parliament was in opposition, and he was the leader of the opposition in Parliament. You know, I recall that he put up a very good fight, leading the opposition, even when we had 94 members in Parliament. You know, and you could see the potency. You know, and I want to see that. I want the constitutional mandate of being an opposition party. It's not by default. The Constitution provides for it. So you don't apologize for opposing. You understand? So I want much more aggressiveness in the way we tackle the issues that bother Ghanaians, you know, and make sure that we offer credible believable solutions to those problems. Yes.
And finally, when will you be making up your mind on running or otherwise on the ticket of the NDC?
Well, if you push me, I would say there is an 80% chance that I will not. But in politics, you say, you don't say never. So I'll leave that 20%. Of the door open, to see what happens. But for now, I think that the mood of the party is not to upset the flow, and we should give the party the chance to get it right or get it wrong.
And what do you think will happen? You may get it wrong in 2024 if you don't upset the system.
No, I mean, I wouldn't say that. That's why I said
Are you scared of being honest to say, well, I feel John Mahama may not make it in the 2024 election?
No, in politics, there's so much that can happen, So for now, and especially you see the challenges that we are facing, right. in the country, anything can happen. And he has a chance, I have a chance, everybody has a chance. I just want to be fair to everybody, and not to be too antagonistic. I don't want to point a hand to somebody and say you will not succeed. That's a bad attitude. Yes.
Anyway, we'll see how the reorganization of the party will go, but I'm grateful that you've been able to spend some time with us. Lawyer Ellie Clement for joining us here on The Pulse. We're also focusing on this for you. The government of Russia has dismissed claims its invasion of Ukraine is to blame for the current hikes in food prices. The nearly 2-month-old conflict has been blamed by various governments for challenges with commodity prices. At a recent conference, we do know that the Vice President in the Central region indicated that the Russia-Ukraine crisis is actually amongst the reasons accounting for Ghana's economic challenges. Listen.
In the first quarter of this year, 2022, we have seen the sharpest first quarter depreciation of the cedi since 2015. Data from the Bank of Ghana shows that at the end of March, the cedi had depreciated by 15.5%. So what explains this? That you had such, low depreciation, and all of a sudden, within a few months, you had such a high level of depreciation. Why did we see this? A number of factors can be adduced to explain what happened. The financial markets assessment of the 2022 budget, unfortunately, generally concluded that our projected 40% increase in revenue, which underpinned the 2022 budget, the financial markets assessed that this was not likely to materialize, and therefore our deficit would increase. This was not helped by the chaotic battle in Parliament over the budget and the passage of the budget. And this created uncertainty and signaled to the market that the government may not be able to get most of its programs passed in a tightly balanced Parliament. This further reinforced the lack of confidence by investors in the budget. Furthermore, delays in implementing major tax reforms, such as the benchmark policy reversal, the tax exemptions bill, the common platform for property tax, and the review of fees and charges, appeared to support the assessment of the market that the government will have difficulty in getting its programs through Parliament. To add to this negative market sentiment, there was a sovereign credit ratings downgrade by Fitch and Moody's, two global sovereign credit ratings agencies, as a result of concerns about fiscal and debt sustainability. If you are unable to pass your budget and the revenue measures in it, then your fiscal and your debt situations will not get better. And this was their assessment. This resulted in an unwillingness, this downgrade resulted in an unwillingness of foreign investors to roll over their holdings of our domestic debt, and they demanded foreign exchange to repatriate their investments. The lack of access to the sovereign bond market by emerging markets globally and Ghana's announcement that it would not issue a sovereign bond in 2022 also worried investors about the adequacy of our foreign exchange reserves going forward. They therefore wanted to get a hold of the foreign exchange now, and this led to an increase in the demand for US dollars on the market. The increases also in interest rates by central banks in the US and other advanced economies also made the cedi assets less attractive and led to a move out of cedi holdings. Then in February, we had the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, which started in February at the same time that we've started seeing this significant depreciation.
With the sets of facts that are being put out there by many governments around the world, including the Vice President himself. In fact, the Russian embassy here in Ghana has posted on Twitter indicating reasons accounting for what's happening to the world economy and the true state, what it terms the true state of affairs. So here you have it. Except of that statement indicating that the embassy took notice of the increased number of news articles somehow or the other accusing Russia of the negative trends in the agricultural markets, the gloomy prospects in terms of the access to food and huge losses of farmers. And it continues to indicate that based on this and the analysis, it appears that a good analysis is not being done because commonly those persons making the claim lack substantive analysis and simply attributing the current crisis to Russia in what's happening will not be the case. Now, it continues to say that the embassy wishes to shed some light on the root causes or drivers of this crisis and also to provide a comprehensive and objective analysis with the promotion of their political interest. Now, here you have it. The first point is that food prices started rising in May 2020 and reached an all-time high in February 2022. This is the real market indicate shock, which is caused by some high demand and rising prices of food, raw materials, and issues of transportation services, including freight as well, in the post-COVID recovery era. Then they continue to indicate that the annual growth rate of wheat prices, for instance, in 2021 amounted up to 25%. February 2022, they exceeded the average price for 2017 all the way to 2021 by some 31 to 62%. The cost of corn, for instance, for the years 2020 to 2021 increased by 162%. And also by some 175%. So these are the indications they're giving. And then the Russian embassy continues to indicate that the Russian Federation, as a responsible participant of the global food market, intends to continue to fulfill its obligations and international commitment in terms of export deliveries of agricultural producers. They have issues relating to fertilizers, and then you have energy and other final food products as well. But they're wrapping up by indicating that certain restrictive economic measures of the Russian Federation is affecting the exports of agricultural and raw materials, and these issues are temporary, and that they are directed solely at minimizing the consequences of the sanctions. And the current situation should be viewed by all countries through the lens of their vital national interests. All stakeholders are therefore called upon to voice up their firm position on matters happening around the world. So that's the concern of the Russian government. So is it the case that government is unfairly using the Russian-Ukraine crisis as a reason for which it says that our economy is not doing well? So let's broaden that conversation. Joining us now is Dr. Michael Adongo. He is a development expert and development economist as well, researcher, understands what's happening around the world. Thank you, sir, for your time. So here we are. The Russians are saying we're not to blame for what's happening to the Ghanaian economy, for instance. What's your take on that?
Yeah, good afternoon, and thank you for having me. I think that the Russian Federation was right to indicate that the happenings in the Ukraine and Russia are not to blame for the current economic predicaments in Ghana. It is so because the conflict actually started around 24th of March 2022, and it is premature to start blaming the impact of that war on current happenings in the economy. What I would say is that the challenges we see today started some years back, way back in 2017. There were already indications that we're headed in this direction. Our economic challenges are anchored in our debt. And what we have continued to do over the years is to shift blame and never take responsibility. So it has led to us misdiagnosing the challenges of our economy and applying short-term ineffective solutions. Prior to the Ukraine conflict, and as the Vice President rightly pointed out, that Ghana was already designated a high-risk debt distressed country, and that had nothing to do with the Ukraine conflict. Prior to the Ukraine conflict, our sovereign risk was severely downgraded, and that affected our access to the capital markets to the extent that we're unable to float Euro bonds to support the 2022 budget. That has nothing to do with the Ukraine crisis. Indeed, our debt crisis is anchored in three main things. First, there's some minimal impact of COVID-19 to the extent that we had some decline in trade and export, and that significantly meant that our revenue projections were fell short by a long mile. So it was true to some extent. But if you look at even COVID-19, as we have chosen to blame for our current woes, just take poverty for example. The World Bank Group did indicate that poverty increased marginally from 25% to 25.5% because of COVID. So if you take COVID-19 poverty by 0.5%, then what accounted for the 25%? We have not been addressing this challenge of the economy and have chosen to blame either the opposition or somebody else instead of taking responsibility.
If you look at what's happening to the petroleum sector, for instance, it's quite evident that the Russian-Ukraine crisis has an impact. For instance, the escalating or undulating prices of the commodity itself, as we heard from experts, can be attributed to what's happening to gas supplies and petroleum supplies across the world. So it's not far-fetched, for instance, when you hear the Vice President and other government officials say, well, partly that's the challenge we're having, because Ghana's revenue largely depends on that source of financing as well, isn't it?
Yes, that is a double-edged sword. We are a net exporter of petroleum. So when the prices are increasing, you need to know that we are also making some windfall profits from our energy exports. If you take 2021, for example, we exported oil to the value of about $3.9 billion as against $2.7 billion imports. So if the prices are increasing, we are also making revenue. So what happens? It is going to depend on how we treat the windfalls. We have largely chosen to export our oil because first, over the years, we have reneged on our responsibility to develop refining capacity, and we are now importing almost 80% of the petroleum products we use in this country. So that has made us dependent on foreign refinery capacities, and also made our domestic consumption of petroleum subject to the happenings in the international market and the strength of the city for that matter. So over the years, if we had sought revitalize the thermal oil refinery instead of just using it as a depot for fuel by oil trading companies, actually revitalizing it and improving our ability to process. In a time like this that we are facing challenges outside, we could have refined our own oil. And let me add that it has been an issue of choice. We have premium oil, so we have a high-grade oil, so we choose to export it for high premium prices. And so if we make those windfall prices, it is now a choice of government to either use that to cushion consumers and ensure that we don't have petroleum-driven inflation in the country and increases in price. If we do that, then the impact of the war on petroleum prices is going to have a negative impact on the economy.
So basically, the argument you're making is the Russian government is justified in its argument on what's happening to many economies around the world, including a nation, a developing state like Ghana. Is that the case? Because they are, well, admitting first of all that there's a crisis, and all that's happening is partly because of the war. But we should not, our government should not go ahead to just make the statement, the blanket statement, that it's because of the Ukrainian war.
Yes, I agree with the Russian Federation perfectly. The impact of the Ukraine-Russia war is a futuristic one. We will begin to feel it in the coming years. But to blame Russia for our current economic predicaments is a very low bar. I don't think it was right. We have significant impacts in terms of input prices because Ukraine, Russia, Belarus control a significant proportion, over 40% of the global potassium fertilizer trade, and bought almost 30% of our fertilizer from Russia. So if Russia is not able to produce, we'll have challenges. Currently, Russia is under sanctions. If NATO and the West decide to enforce these sanctions and then implement third-party sanctions, that is, countries who refuse to abide by these sanctions getting punished, then Ghana will be forced not to depend on Russia for its fertilizer. And it's going to increase cost of fertilizer for farmers and impact our food production. As to the argument of wheat, I don't want to buy that because I think that currently we depend much for our wheat export.
All right,
our wheat exports almost 50%. So I agree with the Russian Federation that there is much more to the economic challenges we face.
Okay, then. We'll have to leave it here. Dr. Michael Adongo is a development economist. He understands a lot of what's happening around the world. Thank you, sir, for sharing some thoughts with us on this matter. This is still The Pulse. We'll return shortly after this break. Don't go anywhere. All right, then, let's head now to the Volta region, where the National Disaster Management Organization is racing against time to move residents in Keta and its surrounding community to safer grounds. With just 5 hours to what the Ghana Meteorological Agency predicts will be high tides with a devastating impact on the area, there are calls for immediate actions to be taken. So what's NADMO doing about this? We know that officials are already on the ground and authorities are also making moves to get many people out of danger. Joining us now is Ivy Amelga, the acting Volta Regional NADMO Director. Thank you for spending some time with us. So what exactly is happening within the Keta Agaveji communities as we speak?
Thank you for having me. Currently, upon the information that the Meteo have given us, my men and then the DCs and then other collaborating agencies are on the ground, actually educating people on the need for them to move to stay with some of their families who are on higher ground. Currently, the education has started since yesterday, and I just received an information from the Keti South Municipal Chief Executive and my men on the ground that Red Cross promised to bring some tents for erection at safe havens for the people, and they are on their way to Keti South currently. The NADMO officials are also still on ground sensitizing people that this is the information we received from the Meteo, and then we should anticipate any mishap within this time frame. So currently, sensitization is what we are doing, and preparations are underway seriously to move people to safe haven.
Now we know that earlier on, just about a couple of weeks ago, when this incident, a similar one happened, you were making plans of resettling persons within the affected communities. Will this be an add-on to that exercise, or you're running that separately as well?
That program is a separate program because it's supposed to be a permanent structure that the people will live in for the rest of their lives. This currently is just an interim situation that we are trying to manage. Hence the sense that for the people who are willing to be moved from their current places to live in for just this period of time, while we focus on the housing unit that is being built permanently for them.
But do we know about, in terms of the numbers, do we know how many residents now have been able to move to safety? I mean, based on the reports that you're getting from the ground.
Based on reports, we cannot give you any figure because some are willing to move, some are adamant, and some haven't still decided. In the case of Sogah, the people have been informed, a meeting has been convened, and then NADMO officials have spoken with them. Some replies were then they are ready for anything because they are used to such occurrences. So until those who have agreed to move and then some have made final decisions, we cannot give any figures as to how many people have moved.
Well, what's accounting for that hesitation? Why is it that you don't? I mean, many of the people there are not willing to move.
Most of the time, they explain that that is where they get their daily bread from, and most of them are fisher folk, and they are not willing to leave the places because it's closer to the sea, and then it makes their work much easier. So that's one of the main reasons of them not willing to leave.
Right. Would have to leave it here. Ivy Amelga joining us live from the Volta region. She's the acting NADMO director there. Let's speak to MC for the area, Maxwell Lugudo, who's also joining us. Thank you, sir, for your time. So what's the grand plan? Really, it appears this is becoming a perennial problem, but I'm sure that at your level, the local authorities are taking some actions to deal with this situation permanently. So what are you doing exactly?
Yes, good afternoon, sir. Actually, when we had the information from the meteorological department, I quickly ran to the various areas, the Agaveji, Salakopa, Amutinu, and Adina. I went there personally, and I quickly called the opinion leaders and assembly members, and we had a meeting just for us to let the people know that this is what is about to happen. And most of them, I really appreciate the response. They quickly inform the rest of the people that those who can move to their families at the higher grounds, they started putting their things together. Luckily for us, the Red Cross, they last came to us that they have some the temporary tents that we can fix. So the opinion leaders actually show us the place that we can fix those things. So those are the things we are quickly working on now.
NADMO is reporting that many of the residents do not want to relocate. That would therefore bring forth the need for government sea defense project, which is stalled for some time. Are you engaging the housing ministry on that as well?
I can hear that.
Yes, I'm talking about the reports we're getting from NADMO indicating that residents are not willing to relocate. So there will definitely be a need.
It's not that they are not willing.
Right.
It's not that they are not willing. Some of them you realize that they are not even believing what we are saying, that the meteorological department is saying this. But those who understand and they are helping to educate people, they are willing to move.
Yeah, that notwithstanding, that's why I'm asking the question about the long-term solution. We know that you are doing, for instance,
that is what I said sometime.
You are doing the sea. Just hold on for me. Sorry, sir. Just hold on for me. The sea defense project, for instance, that you are doing in the area. Are you in talks with the housing ministry to try and get that project complete?
The network is not good, but if I can hear
yes,
you
I'm
well,
talking about the completion of the sea defense project.
Yes, that's what the sea defense project. Yes. That's what I'm saying. What we can do now for our people to put their heads on, that is what we are doing, the resettlement project.
Hello, sir.
Hello?
Yes, you are on.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
That's what I'm saying, that we are, myself, we are focusing on the resettlement project. Luckily for us, I said it sometime that the Ghana Gas is approved 2 million Ghana cedis for us to start some 2-bedroom house, 15 units for the people, which we are about to start before the rain also setting. But as now, we are doing everything to send water and electricity to the island for the project to start. But what as we had the information from the Meteorological Survey Department, what we can do for people if in case it happens now, that they can put their head on somewhere, that is what I went to discuss with the opinion leaders.
Anyway, we'll have to leave it there. Maxwell Lugdo, MC for Keta, joining us. Ivy is also on the ground, so watching what's happening there within Keta and its environs. Ivy, what can you report?
Well, actually, the residents, you understand, some of them or most of them wouldn't want to relocate. This issue of them being there for a long time, you know, they are not ready to move to the higher grounds now. They believe that today nothing will happen. So, according to the assemblyman I spoke to earlier, said they are just there, hoping that nothing will happen. So they are not relocating or they are not moving in with relatives and friends for now, hoping that this evening nothing will happen or the report by the Meteo Agency about the high tides may not happen. For the residents of that is Ketu South, Agavaji and the environment. But for the residents of Fuvemba too, some of them are able to move to the neighboring communities because Fuvemba in particular is an island. Okay, so you have to cross the river before you get to the other town. So some of them are able to move, and then the rest are there, especially men, waiting that nothing happens and that they become safe. They are only calling on government to do something quickly, only about the state defense war. So I can say that most people are not maybe ready to move out. They are only hoping that they are safe or nothing happens, or because most of the times they usually don't have these serious casualties. So they are hoping that everything works well and then nothing happens for today. So right now, most people have not been able to move to higher grounds or relocate with families and friends. But from my report, the MC, for Ketu South and around the Agavaji and then the NADMO are also on the ground with the assemblyman for Amutenu.
And Ivy, when the MC came on, he was talking about the fact that they are providing some shelters, temporary shelters for persons who may be displaced or who are even moving away from that danger zone. So has that been provided as we speak?
Yeah, so that's what they are on now. They are trying to provide some temporary accommodation for them for now, just in case it happens, so that they can move in quickly, especially those who are willing to move into those temporary structures. So for now, that is all the MC and the NADMO and other people are working on as we speak. So we are just hoping that residents understand these things, the urgency of this issue, and move into this temporary structures for now, as maybe government does something about their situation.
All right then, Ivy Setsoji joining us from the Volta region. Angry NPP youth in the Himan Lower Denchira constituency have sent a strong signal to the Electoral Commission arbitration committee actually of the NPP not to go ahead to hold the constituency elections in the constituency if polling station elections have not been held in all 81 polling stations in the constituency. At a news conference at Chifo Himan, spokesperson of the aggrieved NPP youth group, Christopher Ampofo, warned that the National Party not to exhibit bias in their decision in order for peace to reign within the NPP.
Even by the mediation committee's report, this report is out without our knowledge. Region have provided timetable which indicates that there is going to be a constituency elections in Himan Denchira, which affirms what MP's camp are saying. We are sending a strong warning to Honorable Madam Sisi Adapa and her committee that if she is the one who told MP that only 9 polling station elections are going to be conducted in Himan Denchira, as Yasantua fought with his life for the Ashanti Kingdom, we the 900 delegates will fight with our last blood. If the right things are not done, we are sending a strong warning to Honorable Sisadapa. She will kill all of us before the 9 polling station elections are conducted. If Madam Sisadapa, as MP, wants to treat our case to compensate her fellow MP, we are telling Madam Sisadapa we voted for MP, not her. We will resist any attempt to compensate Honorable Bright Rekubrobi, who has lost credibility in Himan Denchira constituency, but is now seeking his way through mafia. Had not been Odafo's funeral, all the 900 delegates who purchased form to contest have decided to hit on the streets to demonstrate against the party leadership. We will wait till the end of the funeral and we promise they will hear from us. If such report comes out, we the leadership of the delegates can't control the group again, and we don't want and we will not know how to happen next. We are calling on national that if such 9 polling station or if such report comes out, we will not accept such reports, and we are daring them that if nothing apart from the 81 polling stations are conducted, we will resist and we will not allow any, and I say any polling station or any constituency election to be conducted in Himan Denchira. We will fight till our last blood. We send this strong warning to them. Thank you.
Now, Ghana's soybean value chain has broken, threatening the survival of the industry. Since the beginning of 2021, large-scale soybean processing companies actually have been producing under 30% capacity. The market is currently dictated by foreign buyers and their agents who mostly pay for the beans above local market prices. Prince Apia has been investigating the issues and reports Ghana is losing too much from this area.
I meet Matthew Menu Bonsu, a poultry farmer on his farm in the Offenso South District of the Ashanti region. With 15 workers, he has been working on this farm for the past 3 years. He tells me 2021 is turning out to be the worst year for the poultry industry.
Had it not been that there are a lot of people here who are like workers and their daily livelihood depends on this farm, I would have sold all the bets. Because one, the profit margin is always coming down, and then the prices of input, basically the feed, keeps going up. And as I'm talking to you now, it has not ceased. It's still going up.
Feed is a very critical element in the poultry industry, without which farms cease to operate. Today, Matthew struggles to get poultry feed for his birds.
We are not getting maize. And even if you should get, the price that they quote is very high. And this business depends so much, about 60% of the feed is prepared with maize. And wheat bran is another commodity that we use to prepare the feed. I've placed an order and it's been 2 months now. I've not had the wheat bran. And the price of soya bean has more than doubled. So if you aggregate all these things together, you see that we are really suffering.
But for the challenges this year, his warehouse has never been this empty. It is currently holding feed that cannot sustain the farm for the next month. Due to scarcity of feed, Matthew has reduced the feed ration for his birds.
Right now, if you should go to my warehouse, my soybean is not up to 15. Previously, I could buy maize for a whole year so that if there is any shock, we can rely on that maize. Right now, I don't even have up to 1 month stock.
I could be as our grams do was with aging with this, I said grams with Tino. I said, so we be 120 grams here. Maybe I have a man by 90. 90, we say 90, and whatever two. And 120 number 90, we say 3-4 days, no, but 2 back 1 and SS. I could do dimmy or deback for the body. The bubbles SS and only 2 years. They say we do 120 grams in there. No man, bear 100. We say, or tuna at the account. As I said, approaching us when you're the bear 3-4 days, not tobacco, no alcohol.
Maize and soya bean constitute 95% of feed concentrate. Both commodities are in short supply in the country since the beginning of the year. As a result, the cost of maize has increased from 50 cedis to more than 100 cedis per 100 kg bag, while soya beans have seen more than 100% increase from last year till now. In the face of this, Matthew plans to sell more of his birds in order to stay afloat.
We had a bird population of 48,000, but currently I've sold around 5,000 already, and I'm prepared to sell around 4,000 coming next week or 2 in order to sort of stay in business.
These challenges faced by Matthew extends to many others in the poultry industry.
So the impact of high cost of inputs in the poultry industry continues to impact a lot of farms severely. This and the other pen behind, altogether more than 5,000 fowls were housed here. But because of the high cost of feed, owners of this farm have decided to sell the birds to stay in business.
Now, some orphanages in the country say they've been struggling to get food for children under their care. They say funds from the donations is unable to meet the high cost of food and are asking for increased donations to enable them keep the children well fed. There's more in the following report.
Ghana's economic challenges may have hit industry hard, prompting hikes in transport fares and general increase in goods and services. But now, the situation is permeating the society and impacting vulnerable groups. Orphanages are also bearing the brunt as managers in some facilities struggle to get enough to feed children under their care. Graceland and Needy Childcare at Bodrias in the Central Region is one of them.
We don't have rice, we don't have even gari, we don't have some, so we have been going to buy gari in the market before when we cook kwache, we first some on it.
Even when our food was finished and we are not having anything again.
During the Easter festivities, various groups and individuals went to the aid of the children. One of them, the My Help Your Health Foundation, which provided food and other items to make life more comfortable for the children. Nicholas Kofi is the president of the foundation.
They raised the issue of school uniforms for the kids, over 100 kids without having school uniforms. They raised the issue of stationaries from primary to GSS. And above all, they raised the issue of foodstuffs. We feel these are kids who have no parents, no father, no mother. They are helpless, they are vulnerable, and what have you. So as a Christian organization, we saw it deemed proper to be of compassionate to them. I also believe Easter is about giving.
But that is still not enough to absorb the shocks brought on by the high cost of food and other services. Founder of the facility, Grace Wobble, has been sharing her situation.
Now, food is expensive, you know, and when you go to the market, it's not easy like that. Catering for such children. So please, if you dine with your family, remember these children too, to bring them a little of what you are eating.
The facility is also in need of funds to expand to deal with congestion in the dormitories and provide better learning environment for the children. Ifwa Aprekua Boafo's report read to you.
With the rising cost of living in Ghana, especially food, some Ghanaians have revisited the idea of having gardens on their compounds to grow food for themselves and their families. Others have also taken to other sources of employment. Samuel Kojo Brace has more in the following report for you.
What you need to do wherever you are in Ghana, just look around you. If you have a piece of land, that is good. If you don't have a piece of land, there are containers, the rice sacks that we throw away, especially the 5 kg sacks. We throw a lot of them away. Or even if you have the bigger one, all that you need is the soil. The soil, you look around you, most of the soil that we have in Ghana are good. So you look around where there's vegetation, just make sure you have earthworm activities, enough earthworm, or if you have some of the farms that have been that people are farming on, you pick soil from there, fill your containers, and then you can use the container to nest your vegetables. You buy the seeds from anywhere that you are, the agro shops, or you can even use some of the seeds that you even pick out from the vegetables that you buy.
So with us here on the polls,